Why is Chobani yogurt trans? What's the point of this? I don't understand. Does this get people health care? Does this make people happy?
Well, Tim, tell us how you really feel about Pride Month. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We're going to dive into a clip that's going viral that I found interesting and funny, featuring Tim Dillon, who was just on. He's a comedian and podcaster, and who's like politics adjacent and a tad conspiratorial and out there, but I do find him very funny as well and entertaining. And he was just on Joe Rogan, which obviously he has one of the biggest podcasts out there. And that's a big deal anytime he gets on there. One thing Tim Dillon doesn't speak out about too much, because it's just not a huge part of his brand or his focus, is that he is gay, and he does have thoughts on the LGBT Pride movement and kind of Pride Month and all of that, which you guys, if you're longtime followers of this channel, you know where I'm at on all that. But he did speak out about it in a truly hilarious way that I think has a grain of truth to it as well. So we're going to take a look at that and pull up this clip and dissect it, because it is popping off and it is going viral. And I think that's because it's resonating with a lot of people. But without further ado, let's watch.
Everyone I grew up with and the generation directly under me, they're all institutionalists. They believe very strongly that knowledge is given through an approved, whether you're at NYU or whether it's the State Department or whether it's a board or whether it's a nonprofit that commissioned a study that proved the thing. A lot of these kids do not think for themselves. They do, and they're not kids. They're in their 30s, by the way, and they're in their 30s or 40s. They don't think for themselves. They've been taught that thinking for themselves is bad. It's racist, or it can lead you down a road that you don't want to go on. It's whatever. It's misogynist. It's homophobic. Like, whatever questions you're asking, like, why do the Padres have to wear gay uniforms?
How dare you ask that question? That is incredibly offensive. Of course they have to wear gay uniforms. No, so what's interesting here is I think he's hinting at something true, and it's definitely a waning force. But for a long time, people really were scared to step outside of a certain ideological bubble or ask certain questions or dissect certain topics, because you could be so brutally canceled in the public domain, or even just, called some form of bigot, racist, extremist, what have you. I mean, I remember when I was a college student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, which is a very left-wing college, and that's where I went to school. And I've always been kind of, centrist, center-right. I was a little more right-wing, a little more edgelordy in some of my takes back then than I am these days, but I still agree with a lot of what I stood for at the time. But I would speak out against something like affirmative action in a discussion section in a class, and it'd be me versus like 10 people arguing, and then afterwards, like, multiple students would come up to me and be like, "Thank you for speaking out. I really agreed with you." And I'd be like, "Well, I could have used some support back there. Where were you?" And they would take a look or pause and feel a little guilty and say, "Well, I agreed with you, but I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want my friends to call me racist or what have you." And for a long time, that was used as sort of a thought terminating cliche, or argue, like, instead of an argument, to just shut down people. And that was, I think, incredibly toxic. Now, the other unfortunate side effect of that is watering those things down to the point of near meaninglessness, where now we have actual racism and bigotry and all this sorts of stuff that's all over the place, and people are desensitized to these allegations and claims because they were thrown around so frivolously for so long, and now a lot of people are getting away with some genuinely hateful and nasty stuff, and that too is unfortunate. But now we're about to get into the Pride Month of it all, and Tim's take cracked me up a little bit, so let's keep going.
Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, as a gay person, I never said why I need the Padres to be gay. Why are the Padres gay?
What does the Padres uniform look like?
They're making them wear like gay things on the uniform.
Like pride stuff?
It's like pride stuff. I don't think it's like a dildo on their head, but I think it's like pride stuff.
What happens when you're playing Dearborn?
I hope not.
It's not gonna go well. But it's like, why is Citibank gay? Why is Chase gay? What is it? Why does this help anyone?
Well, it never really did help anyone. A lot of it was corporate virtue signaling, and they were just hopping on the popularity of the movement and the moment to capitalize, because that's what corporations do. And that's why I was against it and have been for a long time, is it's like empty, vapid virtue signaling, especially in sports, but in other things as well. It's like these corporations, you used to see these memes that would float around, but they were true, where they would show you the corporation changing their logo to rainbow, but then their Middle East accounts, it all stays the same. It's like, wait a second. So the one place you actually do need to promote acceptance, you don't, because it's actually meaningless. I felt the same way in the sports that I follow is just pretty much just soccer, professional soccer all over the world. And you had some of these players who would wear the rainbow armband and speak out about LGBT rights. And Jordan Henderson famously did this. And like, this was a big thing he really cared about. And then the second he got a fat check offered to him by the Saudi Arabian League, he went over there like nobody's business, even though it's literally illegal to be gay. It's like, oh, so you never actually cared at all. That stupid armband was just virtue signaling. And at that point, it's like, you're making this divisive. You're, pushing this message out, but none of you actually believe in it. So stop. But the flip side is, and I had this conversation recently with a friend who was attending Pride. And they're like, yeah, well, Target used to sponsor it, but we don't want, they didn't want Target to sponsor it anymore because they stopped their DEI programs or what have you. And I'm like, hang on. So now y'all are eschewing the corporations that still want to support you, even though most of them have stopped. It's like, maybe actually y'all love to complain about it, but maybe you could use a little bit of support from corporate America, because your cause has become quite unpopular. And we can talk about why that is. I think they lumped in lots of crazy stuff. Most normal people have no problem with gay people living their lives, getting married, having families, being free. They don't want to see Christian bakers hounded into making gay wedding cakes by the state. They don't want to see children getting chemical castration via puberty blockers, and that's part of this lovely community. Wear the armband, and other crazy things like, biological males beating the crap out of women in Olympic boxing. Obviously, that's no longer just, acceptance and uncontroversial. That becomes like a kind of radioactive and extreme political movement. And then when you are having everyone from banks to baseball teams pushing it, yeah, that's not going to go over well with a lot of people. And I think that's part of how we ended up where we are today, with huge backsliding in support. And it never really accomplished much, as Tim points out here. But let's keep going.
That a corporation is trans. Why is Chobani yogurt trans? What's the point of this? I don't understand. Does this get people health care? Does this make people happy? Does this satisfy?
It makes some people happy.
It makes some people happy that I worry about, because I just don't understand. And it makes more people angry. And that's why gay marriage has lost 11 points in support. More people are annoyed. They're like, we're all cool with however people want to live their lives. Most people are. But they're like, why is my bank gay? When did
it's just a funny way of putting it. Obviously, the bank's not literally gay, but it's like, when did all this identity stuff have to be pushed in just totally irrelevant spheres? Like, I don't want a bank that's affirming my identity. I just want a bank that's going to treat everyone fairly and welcome everybody regardless of their sexuality or religion or race. It's like, we really could have just stopped at the non-discrimination policies and not pushed into the over-the-top identity celebration, which I think rubs people the wrong way. And then the other point that he made here as well is, well, yeah, some people are happy from this, like the freaking activists that work at the Human Rights Campaign, like that leftist, they call themselves an LGBT rights organization, but they're really just, like a progressive advocacy organization. But those people are the problem, right? Like I get that they feel happy when baseball players all wear the rainbows. They really shouldn't, because actually, there's like a deeply homophobic culture in the locker rooms and among the players that keeps players closeted. And yet wearing the rainbows or having the outward decorations or celebrations doesn't address that problem and kind of just papers over the cracks. But they feel happy because they're like seeking affirmation for their identity or their life from others. And like, that's the problem. That's actually a toxic way to live your life. You need to feel good about how you are and not need the rest of the world to affirm you. And if you do, then that's something you should work on. It's not something we should try to cajole every aspect of life into affirming. And I agree that it's a piece of why there is that backlash that we're living through now that I think is getting ugly and I think is really unfortunate. And the people who are coming out just swinging again. I just did an interview with Megan Basham from the Daily Wire, who wants to recriminalize homosexuality. That would have been an unthinkable take from anyone on the right 5 years ago that's at all mainstream. But we are seeing this kind of radical, crazy, discriminatory stuff rise. Now, a lot of it's an online phenomenon. I don't know how pervasive it truly is in the real world or in actual policies or politics, but it's still scary. It's still crazy. But we need to take a long look in the mirror about how we got here. And I think Tim managed to kind of comedically highlight some of that stuff. Let's roll the rest of the clip here.
When did my bank come out as gay? And like, I'm okay with it, but could somebody have told me, like, what are we doing? This doesn't make anybody's life better. It is just virtue signaling horse that ends up doing the exact opposite of what they want. They think it increases acceptance. It decreases it because you're shoving a worldview down someone's throat.
It's interesting because that last point, the idea that, well, it's being shoved down people's throats. A lot of times progressives or liberals will say, like, that's not real, because there are some times that conservatives or Republicans complain about things being shoved down their throat, and then it's just like gay people existing. Just like, oh, a commercial depicts a gay couple that's being shoved down our throat. But actually, there's a lot of examples where it is. I mean, I'm going to cover this later today, but the state of New York is literally persecuting a charity run by nuns that provides free palliative care to people who are dying because they don't affirm pronouns. It's like we saw cases taken all the way to the Supreme Court involving Christians who activists were trying to force them to celebrate gay weddings. Right? This to pretend that none of these laws or at all ever infringed on anybody and we never were forcing anything on all of you is kind of gaslighting. And it is a total attempt to recast and wishcast. Not to say that conservative or kind of Republican or right-wing media never is just sensitive for sensitivity's sake. They can be snowflakes about some of this stuff, sure. But there absolutely was a very real push to coerce a lot of people into going along with this stuff. Even when it comes to like using preferred pronouns, you've had schools and teachers and businesses and people lose their jobs and their livelihoods or be fired for not using someone's preferred word choice in ways that I just think people really don't like to be coerced into something or pushed or pressured into something. It builds resentment, and that is inevitable. And that's why there was a huge difference in the success of something like the gay marriage movement, which was just, hey, let us participate. Let us do our own thing. Let us blend into society equally. And now celebrate it. Now go bake the cake. Now go open your doors to this. Now talk about how wonderful this is. Now we're going to put this on every sports team and corporation and everything. And now we see how empty that all was and how it was meaningless virtue signaling, because if they actually believed it, they'd still be doing it, even though the winds have shifted a little. But most of them stopped, or a lot of them stopped. So to me, the whole thing is ridiculous, kind of absurd and sad. And it's interesting, you can go back to, I don't know, it was a while ago. It was when I was quite young, like 2018 or 2019. I wrote an article titled, "I'm Gay, but I'll Pass on Pride Month." And I talked about how it was over-sexualized, it was too politicized and divisive, and I didn't really feel it represented me, and I thought it was doing more harm than good, and if we weren't careful, there was going to be a backlash. And there are some things I've said or done or written earlier in my career that I look back at and I'm like, ooh, don't love that, wouldn't say that, wouldn't do that, totally disagree with that now, or wouldn't say it that way at least. But that's not one of them. That one kind of aged like fine wine. And that's unfortunate, because I would have much preferred to be wrong. And I don't say that very often. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you aren't yet. Hit the like button. I suffer through the crazy world of politics and media for your entertainment pleasure. So the least you can do is hit the like button. And if you want to support me and support my work and bringing you these videos, you can consider becoming a channel member. I do videos reading and responding to members' comments. So you can also, if you are a member, comment your question or feedback for me or anything you want to tell me, and I'll consider reading it in an upcoming video. And with that, guys, that'll be it it for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be back real soon.